Yo, in light of it being spooky season and all that, I just want to address one thing. Yo, stop handing out candy corn, man. That shit sucks. Be a real one and hand out some soda. All right, let's get into it. Look, Thursday night football happening tonight in JetLife Stadium. The Jets and Texans. The line hasn't. I mean, it just kind of moved a little bit, but it's kind of a pick'em game now, which I still don't understand. But I get it. I mean, I think if you look at the Texans coming off of injuries and, some of the injuries that they've had to their wideouts and how their offensive line has played all year, I guess you can say that they, I don't know, are going to get flattened by I don't know. I really don't understand the line and why it is. I think this is kind of a trap game for the Texans in one way, though. I do like if I was a betting man. I'm not saying I'm not, but if I was, I think I'll go with the Jets tonight. I just feel like I don't know. I feel like they need this game. Obviously, being 6-2, they obviously need this game. But I think more than that, they come out tonight and show. Like, first of all, I just want to say to the NFL, we're tired of seeing the Jets in prime time. We just are, bro. We thought they were gonna be better. They're not. So take them off prime time. I get it. The schedule makers make this like fucking months in advance. But like, fuck, bro. I'm tired of seeing the Jets in prime time. And then on Friday we had to come and talk about them again. It's like, dude, how many times are you gonna talk about how they just aren't that good? How many times are we gonna say that? Yeah, let's say they win tomorrow or tonight, sorry, and we come on here tomorrow and talk about, yeah, they look pretty good. They look pretty good for being 2-6, now being 3-6. Like, I'm just saying, I'm tired of it. I think everybody's tired of it. NFL, let's get all New York teams, until they have a good, first 4 or 5 games. Until they have that, let's get New York teams out of prime time, please. On behalf of every NFL fan in the world, let's not do that. We're excited to see the Texans. We're excited to see the Texans in prime time. We're excited to see CJ. Obviously, we would have liked to see Stephon Diggs and Nico and all those boys out there. But fuck, man, injuries are tough. I feel for Diggs. I felt like that was a tough way for his season to end. Obviously, when you have a season-ending injury, it's tough regardless of when it happens and how it happens. But I felt like he was having a stellar year. Not by the numbers, not by the stats and all that, but I felt like the way that he was playing, the way that the Texans used him, he fit perfectly what they needed. Somebody that could win one-on-one every time. And Stephon is he's incredible at that. So I felt like they're going to miss him, no doubt about that. And hopefully, they get Nico back soon. Deep ball threat, but there's an opportunity for Tank Dell to be the YR1 and see what how he produces, right? For somebody that is that size at the wide receivers position, he's so shifty. But he can create separation, very well. So I assume that he's going to be targeted a lot tonight. But, what have we said about the Texans all year, right? Their offensive line isn't what we thought they were going to be coming into the year. They just haven't played that well. And I'm not saying that the Jets defensive line has played well at all, but I've also said that the Jets defensive line has also kind of been overrated. And they should have, obviously Hassan Reddick is back, but they got him from Philadelphia because they fucking needed him, right? And he didn't play well last week because he missed all year. I mean, all summer. And then he comes into a game, and again, it's the Jets. We've talked about this ad nauseum. It's the Jets. They do things that make you question, is this a real franchise? Because they continuously... This is a franchise that struggles to make 2 correct moves in a row. So I'm not going to overreact to what we see tonight from the Jets. I think that on this platform, we have defended Aaron as much as we can. And I love Aaron. I hope he does well. I think he will do well tonight. Cayenne pepper, water. He said that was the fountain of youth. Shit, that might help him. That might help him tonight, I assume it will because the sports books know things that we don't clearly, right? The sports books know something that we don't because this opened up as a 2.5 point favorites. The Jets opened up as 2.5 point favorites, by the way. At home, I get that, but like, what are we talking about? This is a 2-6 team going up against a Houston Texans team that it's pretty good. It's pretty fucking good. Obviously the offensive line hasn't played good. They've got some injuries, but that defense is still pretty good. Will Anderson, defensive rookie of the year last year. He's having defensive player of the year campaign. Like, he's played really well, but that secondary, Derek Stingley Jr., Petrie, those boys have played really well. So, the Jets are still a pretty good team. The Texans are still a pretty good team, and I just don't understand how the Jets are favorites. But again, the sports books know shit that we don't. I'm kind of more interested to see coming out of this game how Jeff Ulbrich or whatever the fuck, Brick over there, how he handles situational football, and if his defense that he's been calling can play to the level that Bob Saleh had him playing at. So yeah, but CJ Stroud he's that guy. So it's not going to be a cakewalk by any means. And I imagine this is going to be a close game. But I think if you are a betting man, I think this feels like one of those games that the Jets are probably going to win. I think the Texans have had an emotional week losing Diggs and how everything has transpired there. But yeah, I think I'm more excited to see how the coaching plays out because, on this podcast, I'm going to tell y'all right now, on this podcast, like, I'm going to talk a lot about coaching and malpractice and all that just because I feel like it matters so much in sports and, like, they aren't held as accountable as they should be. Right, and I'm gonna give y'all a little example. What's that dude's name in New York? Brian Daboll, right? Like, you lose Monday Night Football against the Steelers, and you lost because you didn't block T.J. Watt, and then you want to come out after the game and say that that was Danny's fault. It wasn't my fault. It was my quarterback's fault. It was the check was supposed to move. The line was supposed to go to the right side. We were supposed to give help to on the side of number 90, and we just didn't. It was a game-altering play, right? Strip sack, fumble recovery, like T.J. Watt. Like, so he goes out and he blames Daniel Jones for not actually changing his protection, and I don't know. I don't fucking know, man. I don't get it. Right? Like, at what time are you going to be held responsible for that type of shit? Because I'm not saying by any means Daniel Jones is good. Right? But he's not terrible. You know what I mean? Like, as a quarterback in the National Football League, Daniel Jones is not terrible. Is he a starter? There's times where I feel like he is, but I feel like, in New York, right, with the turnover that they've had, in not just personnel, like just players wise, but like, top to bottom, and how they kind of operate. Like, I just feel like it's tough for us to really see what Daniel Jones is. Yes, he makes some questionable decisions. That's why I don't think that he's great. But he's not terrible. And sometimes I think gets painted that this guy is a bad, back of Sags. He's not terrible, man. And I just feel like Brian, like his head coach, like, bro, you have to know the situation. You have to decide if you are the play caller, then you have to be better at situational football, right? It can't just always be about who's responsible and this, that. And I'll be honest, man, Brian Daboll is a fucking, like, he's okay. He's he's okay. He's better at being a coordinator, and this is my biggest point, man. There's some head coaches that are just better at being coordinators than they ever are as head coaches. That's not a surprise. I think everybody understands that. Like, bro, like, being a head coach ain't easy, right? And I get it. Like, it's you're part of the CEO and part of the CEO and like management team of a multi-billion-dollar business. So I get it. Obviously, it's not going to be easy, but I'm just saying, like, if you're going to be the head coach, you do have to protect your players at all times. That is part of being the leader of men, is that you have to be a protector of all your players at the right time. And I just feel like he doesn't do that well enough, man. And he's bitching and moaning on the sideline every fucking play, right? And then, like, I don't know. None of his concepts have ever worked. Is he a good play caller? Maybe. But he has never used Danny Dimes to his strengths. He's never used most of his players to his strengths. So it's like, I can't even say that he's, like, exceptional at the one thing that we hired him to be good at. And I don't know, man. I just feel like coaching is like, and in this NFL, man, it feels like more than ever, coaching is just like, is not good enough. It's just not, man. At this level, like, it's the highest level of the sport, and I just feel like coaching it's just not good enough. And that's why you see so much turnover in coaching, right? What do we say? 6 to 7 head coaching openings every year, pretty much. It's like a fucking non-ending cycle. Right. What I'm kind of interested to see, though, is that, like, for a long time, the college gig was much better than the NFL gig. I think in the last, like, 5-6 years, that has changed. Now, the NFL gig is much better than the college gig because of transfer portal, the recruiting all year, the NIL, and pretty much as a college coach, you're a professional coach because everybody's getting paid in a way. But then, like, the recruiting and all that doesn't stop, but also there's no like streamlined way of knowing what an individual is making or not, right? There's no contracts, there's none of that. So it's all too much. And I also think, like, the job is much longer. For instance, the college job is all year, all the time, right? Because you can't ever stop your recruiting. There's no period that you can stop your recruiting, right? So if you are in the NFL, right, like, you do have some level of downtime. So my thing is this, right? I'm wondering how many coaches in the next cycle make the jump from college to the NFL. Is it going to be a Ryan Day if he doesn't win at Ohio State, which they got a big one coming on Saturday against Penn State. We're not going to get into that just yet, but college football has delivered all year. But coaching in college, right? Like, who transitions? Lincoln Riley at USC, does he transition into the NFL? With the because Cliff Kingsbury did. So yeah, I think, like, there are going to be coaches from college that might want to transfer over and come to the NFL, and I assume that they might get head coaching gigs before a lot of these coordinators might, that are in line. Like, obviously, if you're like a Ben Johnson, and those types of dudes, like Bobby Slowick, like, you're gonna have a lot of opportunity, but sometimes it's okay to stay on. It's okay to stay on as coordinator, because what was it last year that the salaries of coordinators and coaches has increased, so it's closer to the head coaching gig. So more coordinators are enticed to actually stay at their gig, because again, like we said, like head coaching, you're either made for it or you're not. It's a huge take on things. And speaking of that, like the Raiders, right? Like you're 2-6, all this hooting and hollering about what you're going to be, talking shit about Pat Mahomes, this, that. Fuck happened, man. Like, what? You have no identity. You got no, you got nothing to really show for what, you have been. I just feel like, I'm tired of the turnover that the Raiders have to constantly fucking go through, just to gain a little bit of relevancy in the NFL. And I fear, my biggest fear is that they're in for another one. They are, they're gonna be in for another one, because we have seen no sign of improvement in any direction, one way or another. So, AP, great hire and all this shit, but like, it hasn't gone nowhere. Right? Yeah, not every 2-6 team is made the same. I feel like as a 2-6 team, we have actually looked like a bad 2-6 team. Right? We hired you to make our defense better. It hasn't looked much better. There's some things that we've done better under AP for sure. But like you have, your offensive coordinator, you hired Luke Getsy because Cliff Kingsbury, whatever the fucking drama that happened with that, right? He signed with us, then he left and whatever, went to Washington. I just, to me, here's my thing. If the Las Vegas Raiders, right, go into this offseason knowing, shit, we're going to get like a top 5 pick, let's say, for instance, right? Top 5 pick, right? You have to move up in some capacity to get Shedeur Sanders. I believe you have to. Okay? If it's not Shedeur, it's got to be Cam Ward. I imagine Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, right? But out of all of them, we, like, as the Raiders, they should want a Shedeur Sanders. Let's say that happens. Right? Are you going to go into next season with Luke Getsy as your offensive coordinator? What was he with Justin Fields? He never used him. He never made Justin Fields actually run a great offense. So my thing is like, nah, man. We cannot, as a Raiders fan, we cannot go into next season thinking that, we're going to draft a quarterback that we haven't had in a long time and then go into the season with Luke Getsy as an offensive coordinator. It just would not make sense, okay? It just would not make sense. But speaking of wanting out, though, does Giannis Antetokounmpo want out of Milwaukee? Does Giannis want out of Milwaukee? Because if that's the case, Giannis came on and said, like, does Giannis actually want out? I still can't wrap my head around that. Look, he came out and said, our team doesn't have an identity. And you know who that falls on? Doc fucking Rivers. And Doc Rivers hasn't established an identity anywhere that he's really gone in the last, 8 years, by the way. Right? I'm not saying that this is, I'm hating on Doc in any way. But, geez, I want y'all to know, tell me, where do you want to see Giannis if he goes out? I'm just going to put one place out there that I want to see Giannis at. The Warriors. I want to see him in Dub Nation, man. I want to see him with Steph, dude. Just one time, we want to see Steph with a dominant big like that. And I feel like Giannis in Golden State, there were rumors of that happening before. I would like to see the Warriors go all in with Giannis. Steph goes out after the 2-3 years of playing, and then Giannis has you can still build around Giannis if you are the Warriors. I think that place makes the most sense out of them. But look, if he really wants out of Milwaukee, man, every team would, I assume, make a pitch in some way or another. But the Milwaukee Bucks, like, what I didn't understand about what they did with the Drew, I never understood the Damian Lillard trade. Why did they make that trade? Because Giannis wasn't the closer that they needed. They needed somebody to close out fourth quarters, somebody that could shoot the ball at any time, and Dame gives them that. So I get that aspect of it, but like, the Drew Holiday thing didn't make sense to me. Obviously you're not going to get Dame for free, so you had to give him up. I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying, like, I think my personal opinion is this. If you didn't go out to get Dame, I still think you would have been further ahead than what you are right now. I just, to me, like, Dame, as great as he is like, there has to be a natural fit, and there's just, again, too much turnover, right? You let go of Bud, and then you hire Adrian Griffin, who was doing, from what I remember, he was doing pretty good, and then some scandalous shit happened. Let him go. Enter Doc Rivers. Midway through of last year, all the excuses that he had, that, taking over a team midway through the year, it's like the hardest shit he's ever had to do, whatever the fuck, right? And I believe it, don't get me wrong, I get all that. But then, like, what's the excuse going to be this year if they don't win? We'll see. But Doc usually has one, if not more than one. So, I don't know. We'll kind of see. I just don't, to me, like, and I assume that's most NBA fans, is like, when they let go of Drew, I think we all understood, like, that's, you haven't really moved the needle that much then, right? And by that I mean, look, if you look at the NBA as just a spectrum, right, of like good, contenders, and lottery, right? So like, you have it broken up like that, right? And when you say move the needle, it just means like, did the needle move in your favor on the spectrum when you got Damian Lillard, but you lost Drew Holiday? And how much did it move in your favor to become a contender? Like, it might have moved half a tick. Just because I think with Drew, you lost so much of that shooting ability and the ability to be effective without the ball in his hands. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but Damian Lillard needs the ball in his hands to be effective. And when you're playing with a guy like Giannis, it's like, I need you to be effective without the ball in your hands because I need the ball in my hand. Right, so I just, to me, I never really understood that, and I feel like they are always going to struggle because they can't really defend on the perimeter as well as they were in the past, and I also feel like, Brook Lopez is obviously slowed down a little. He isn't shooting the percentage that he was when they were in 2021 when they were winning the championship. Middleton, in the playoffs and in some spots in games, he will turn into Kobe Bean Bryant, but other games he looks so average. And Giannis, man, like, he's so good. He's so good, but this is what makes LeBron so impressive. What makes LeBron so fucking impressive is that one dude carried everything for so long. He dictated everything for so, like, his ability to make not just like everybody around him better, but like always be in control of the game and situation made him, obviously go to 10 straight finals or whatever the fuck, but like, it just made him so good because he always had that ability. And we always, as fans, trusted LeBron to, put his team in a position of success, right? And I just feel like Giannis, as similar as he is to that, that's what I'm saying. It's what makes LeBron so good, because a lot of like things that we can say about Giannis is like, yeah, that we used to say that about LeBron, but LeBron won. Like, LeBron, not only did he win, but like we had a level of trust with how LeBron played. And by that I mean, like, yo, look, if you have a Giannis Antetokounmpo, right, you want to have shooting around him. And this is what we've said with LeBron his entire career, is that if you have a LeBron James, you want to surround him with shooting, because he's going to find his shooters, right? And we've said that with Giannis for a long time. Like, yo, if you just surround Giannis with shooters, and they did that, right? Their starting lineup, when they won, Drew, Middleton, Lopez, and I can't remember if it was Bobby Portis or somebody else at the four that could also shoot. So, like, he needs shooting around him to win. And they had that when they won in 21. And they haven't had that since, like, to that extent. And I just feel like, yo, even if you give him that now, I don't know if Giannis has enough, like, we have enough trust in Giannis to make it all work now. I don't know what it is. Maybe I haven't watched enough NBA in the last like 2 years, just because did everybody see that the NBA ratings are down this year? Did everybody see that? Was it just like a couple of us that saw that? But I wonder why that is. Adam Silver. I wonder if it's because the World Series was on. Congratulations to the Dodgers. Was it because the NHL is on? Or was it just because you have 82 fucking games and like nobody cares enough in the start of the year? I don't know. Or maybe it was because at the start of the year this year, right, there's not a single rookie that we want to look forward to. This guy, number 1 overall pick, Zachary Richesse, he's like, yo, when I was in France, I was the best athlete. I come to the NBA and I'm like, dude, everybody here is better than me. Well, no fucking shit, dude. It's the NBA. But like, there's not a single rookie that we want to, that we are actually looking forward to seeing and how they're going to perform early this year. Last year we had Wemby. The year before we had Chet and a couple other people actually. Right, so I don't know, man. I just feel like I don't feel bad for the NBA. I think that they've done this to themselves. I think their ratings will continue to go down because the product value isn't actually as good as it used to be. The game isn't as good as it used to be. I feel like sometimes it's just tough. It's just tough to sit through an NBA game. And I don't know what it is. I don't know. The quality of plays are still really good. Athletes are still really good. The moves that they make are more incredible than ever. But again, the refs dictate way too much. They dictate more in the NBA than I think in any other sport, because you just don't know how they're going to call a game from not just game to game. You don't know how they're going to call it from quarter to quarter. You don't know how they're going to call it minute to minute. It makes no sense to me. I never understand it, and I hate how much the refs control the game in the NBA, and then they're not held accountable at all. Look, here's my honest petition. And I feel like every fan would love this, okay? But I think especially in the NBA, the refs have to have a post-game interview. You are part of the multi-billion-dollar company that is the NBA. You ain't doing this for charity. This ain't, you're getting paid just like the players are, just like the coaches are. Just like all the personnel is, everybody in the media. And we hold media individuals accountable. We hold coaches accountable. We hold players accountable. Right? Everybody that, worked for individual teams, we hold them accountable. But refs have more impact on the game itself than anybody else. And we never get to hear from them. And then this fucking bullshit about the 2-minute report after the game. Oh, we missed this call, so boo-hoo. Like, what do we... I hate that shit. I hate that shit so much. So, let's get, a microphone in front of the refs, after every game. Let's see what they say. We just want to hear why you made this call when you made it. My thing isn't even that, it changes so often. My thing is this, the ref will call a game a certain way for 3 quarters, and then the game deciding play, he'll blow his whistle. And by definition, sure, it was a foul, but you have not been blowing the whistle to the definition the entire game. And then you want to blow it in this one instance and act like, and I know how I can imagine how players and coaches feel about this. And this is exactly their sentiment. But they can't say shit because they understand that is part of the, institute that they play for, which is the NBA. But this is my point, is that then let's hold them fucking accountable. Every time a player speaks out about how a ref didn't play well, he gets fined. Like, bro, but the ref is directly involved in the game. And I said the ref didn't play well because they directly impact the play of the actual game. So it's not like they're just there, to make corrections when something goes wrong. Nah, man, they impact every single thing. And then, look, this is a rant that I'm going to go on. But look, legalized gambling is something that everybody signed off on, right? They wanted this. And every single person in every league has benefited from legalized gambling, right? Everybody's getting paid more and things like that. You know what impacts the money of a lot of people is how the ref calls the game. So let's say that they're not held accountable. How about we just do this then? How about this, man? How about that when I go on ESPN or whatever app, right? When I click on the game, it shows me what crew's reffing this game. Just show us that at least. Before I place my bet, before I gamble on a game, just tell me who's reffing this game. Because it impacts so much. It impacts so much that, how they control the game. And in the NBA, more than any other sport, it impacts. I'm not saying that it doesn't impact it, in other sports. I'm saying, I get it. It's a hard thing to do, whatever. In the NBA, I'll never, I just don't get it. The NFL is worse only because it's easier in some ways. And when they get it wrong, it's like, what the fuck are we looking at? You know what I mean? But the NBA, I get it. It's definitely harder to officiate because by definition, so many things are fouls. But at the same time, they're not. You know what I mean? Like if I'm a defender in the paint and I'm going straight up and the guy comes into me, by definition, that's not a foul. But subjectively, you could see it as one because of how the lean is or whatever the case. Like, I don't know how they define it, and I don't understand a lot of the explanations that we get. But, to me, it's like, they are a part and an entity of the NBA, and they make a lot of money doing so. And I'm not trying to count their pockets. I'm just saying, you're part of the entity. You should also be held accountable just as much as everybody else is. And it doesn't make sense that you're not, and my quarrel isn't just with NBA refs. It's with everybody. It's with all of them. It's with judges in MMA, right? Like sometimes I'll be watching an MMA fight and I'm like, oh, I see it this way, right? And then you get to the judge's scorecard and they saw it a completely other way. And now I'm questioning. I'm like, is this TV? Do I need another TV because I'm not seeing the same shit as they are? So how hard would it be to get a microphone after the fights and be like, can you just tell us, right, why you scored it this way in this one round? That's all we're asking for. Just tell us how you scored it in this one round. So then for the next time, If I know that you are judging and I'm going to go place a wager on this X fight, right? If I'm going to go place this wager, I know that you're judging. I'm going to place it as this. So then I know what you're looking for. That's all it is, man. That's all it is. That's all we're asking for. And in the NBA, it's the same way. I know how you're going to call this. So if it's going to be a low scoring, it's going to be high free throws. Is, JoJo going to live at the line? Is James Harden going to live at the line? Then we know what we're expecting. I wish that we could hold refs accountable for their actions. It's too often that they control too much of the game, too much of the outcome of every game, and we can't get a simple fucking answer on how they saw the game differently than everybody else. Yeah, man, it's just I don't know. To me, it's fucking annoying. I wish that it would change, but it is what it is. The NBA, tough start. But it looks pretty good. I'm excited, is it, in the NBA, I'm wondering, are the ratings down because, the Boston Celtics look really fucking good again? And it's just like when the Warriors were running the tables? Or is it because it doesn't fucking matter until after February? I don't know what it is. I don't love talking about the NBA this early just because we have no idea what each team is. Obviously, we should talk about some of the trades. Speaking of which, Cat looked pretty good yesterday in New York, which, correct me if I'm wrong. Did everybody have the sense around the NBA world that trade made no sense if you're Minnesota? I get that if you want to move on from Cat. I'm not saying that. I also get if you would want to move on from Rudy, but you couldn't get a suitor, and then you had to extend him. I even get that. I get that you want Ant-Man to be the guy because he clearly is after what you did last year, getting all the way to the Western Conference Finals. So that's all. But did that trade make any sense for Minnesota though? Because they got Julius in return, and Julius needs the ball in his hands to be effective, because without it, he's not effective at all. At all. So I don't understand why they would make that trade. I simply unless it was, Julius was the throw-in and you wanted Dante. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that that's what it was. I'm just saying did everybody else have that sense that made no sense for Minnesota? Because if you are looking to capitalize on what you did last year, finally seeing what your team is and has the capability of doing, how does this move propel your team forward? If anything, in the Western Conference, I think the Timberwolves have actually gone backwards. I could be wrong. Obviously, they could turn it up later in the year. They could make another move and help. And I'm not saying that they won't. I'm not saying that they will. I'm just saying that could happen, and they could, blow us out of the water. But as of right now, that move didn't make sense just because Julius needs the ball in his hands, and so does Ant. So the reason you moved on from Cat was because it was the same reason. So how did this move the needle for you making this trade? I didn't understand it. I assume that smarter people than me in the NBA world think that this is a brilliant move for both sides. But, I think New York clearly won that trade. And if you are some of these other teams, did we know that Cat was A, available, and B, was available for this cheap? Because if you're a team like the Warriors, why are we not in on Karl-Anthony Towns? Or, if you're the Clippers, why are we not in on Karl-Anthony Towns? Did we know that I don't know. It all happened really quick. Think it kind of went under the radar because people thought like, oh, this is a big move, but like New York was already good. This just makes them a little bit better. Are they going to win the East? Probably not, because the Celtics are still there, and I don't know. I just thought that was kind of a weird move for the Minnesota Timberwolves. But again, the NBA doesn't really get good until after February. Before that, we're just like creating stories, right? So we'll kind of see what they are. But getting back to the NFL, Derek Carr is back. He is back this week, starting against the Carolina Panthers, who we know what the fuck they are. Oh my God, the Carolina Panthers, what a tough franchise. So yeah, like Derek Carr, I don't know. I don't think the Saints are great. Obviously, they should win this game. But if you have Chris Olave, you should probably start him in fantasy this week, because Raheem Shaheed went out with an injury for the year. So yeah, I think with Derek Carr, I think they do have some level of a spark given, and Chris Olave should have a pretty good day. But I wanted to talk about, like, I feel like for rookies, obviously we kind of, the Hail Mary that happened between the rookie game, right? Commanders versus the Bears. And people talked about the Hail Mary. They talked about the play before the Hail Mary and the philosophy behind it and this, that, and the other. The guy that was taunting, Stevenson, was taunting and all that. So I didn't want to talk about that because I feel like it's already washed. It's over talked about. I just want to say one thing. Hail Mary defense 101. Get the ball out of the quarterback's hands. This idea that I'm going to rush 3 and drop 8 makes no sense. That philosophy is washed and it does not work. Okay? Because you have to tell 8 people more things than you have to tell the others, because you're not getting the ball out of his hands enough. So for instance, right? People are making this big deal that, there's 4 people back there, only one person has to jump, everybody else has to box out. Well, if I don't actually get to that position because I rush 5 and I get the ball fucking out of the guy's hands, then I have to tell like less people what their job is in the back end. So let's just do that instead. Why am I giving him that much time to roll left, roll right? Like, it takes so much time for the receivers to get down, like the quarterback to set up. He needs space to launch the ball. So like, let's get the ball out of his hands. Hail Mary defense 101. Get the ball out of the quarterback's hands fast. Rush more than 3. And I'm not going to talk about it more than that. But I did want to talk about another rookie. Bo Nix, man. Bo Nix has played really surprisingly pretty. Like, I'm not saying surprisingly, actually. We all thought that he was going to be a starter this year at least. Obviously, we don't know what he's going to be. I'm just saying, we all thought that, the way that Sean Payton talked about him at the draft, after the draft, leading up to the regular season, the way he played in preseason, we all thought he was going to be pretty good in Sean Payton's offense. He's gone under the radar, though. The Denver Broncos have 5. I think they're 5-3. They're 5-3 on the year. That's pretty good. I know what everybody's thinking. Yeah, but like their defense is top 3 in the league in takeaways and pressures. So, the defense, but like they've played a lot of complimentary ball, man. They've played some good ball, and if you think about it, he doesn't have great weapons, right? Cortland Sutton's great. He's but other than that, they traded away Judd Judy, Judd Judy, yeah, and Javonte Williams coming back of an ACL, obviously, which is a 2-year process. He's started to look a little bit better running the ball, but they haven't been great at they haven't been great at offense, but like they've been pretty good, and they've played a lot of complimentary football that I think if you look at Bo Nix and the way he hasn't turned the ball over, what do we always say? Like, um, ball security is job security, and he hasn't turned the ball over. I feel like he's in a rhythm when he plays. He's throwing the ball well. I think he's an aggressive quarterback. He likes to throw the ball in different spots. And I think as Sean lets him kind of open up, he's going to take like 4 or 5 shots a series. Like, that's the type of quarterback he is. And I feel like he's gone really under the radar. And on the flip side, we talked about this in day one. He hasn't tapped out. And as a quarterback, you can't fucking tap out. You can't tap out, man. Anthony Richardson, sorry, bro. You just can't tap out because now you're on the bench and Joe Flacco's got to go in and do his thing for the rest of the year, by the way. And why did they make this move? I have my opinions on it. Obviously, I don't really agree with the move because I don't think that the Colts are actually close to a Super Bowl. I think that they are still far away. Could you make the argument that they could host a playoff game? Maybe, but I'm saying they're still kind of far. And if you're not going to win the Super Bowl this year, if you're not going to host a playoff game, so I assume that, I mean, that's probably what it is that they think that they're good enough to still host a playoff game. But if you don't think that you are, you have to kind of stick with they are. He hasn't played enough to be like, oh, this guy just doesn't have it. And if you think that he has, you think that he has played enough and you know exactly what he is, then let's not do this charade of going back and forth. I assume he'll get another opportunity. If it's not with Indianapolis, it will be somewhere else. I imagine it will still be with the Colts because I don't think that they've given up on him. I just think that he lost the locker room. You just can't say, you just can't tell people you're tired, bro. That's and in a 3rd and goal. I already went on that rant. I'm not gonna go down it again. A lot of my friends that are Colts fans, they didn't like that. But I like I said, I think that we want AR to do well. Obviously, he's built like LeBron. He's incredible arm talent. Has all the intangibles that you would think would make him a great NFL quarterback. I just think that because he lost the locker room, I think Shane Steichen had to make this decision. And whether you agree with it or not, I don't know. I'm just saying, unless you think that the Colts are going to the Super Bowl, I don't understand why they would make this decision. Because as great as Flacco is, he's not your quarterback solution of the future. So what does this really say to you? I don't know. Because, we haven't, there was that stat that, AR has the lowest completion percentage of all quarterbacks in, the last 20 years or whatever. But he also has, the least amount of snaps before being benched than anybody else in the last 20 years. So have we seen him for the last time? Absolutely not. I just think that, if you're the Colts, if you genuinely believe that your team is good enough to host a playoff game and win the AFC South, which now feels like it's kind of wide open with the injuries that the Texans have had, the way that their offensive line is played, and obviously the Jags are the Jags and the Titans are a dumpster fire organization. So yeah, I mean, it's still wide open. You can still host it, but if you truly believe that, then I guess you have to go with Flacco. If not, then you've given up on AR, and you only give up on him if you know exactly what he is, and I completely understand that. Now, there was this thing about NFL coaches and NFL as a whole doesn't know how to develop young quarterbacks. Shut the fuck up, dude. The reality of the situation is that this, it is the National Football League. The National Football League is not easy. It's not easy to play quarterback. And if college football is very, very different than the NFL. So if you don't cut it, you don't cut it. And not everybody can be great, especially at that position. You have to understand that position is like having the keys to a multi-billion-dollar organization. So it can't, if you're not everybody can make it. And I feel like it's not about the development and the lack of development and the time spent on them. I just think some people have it, some people don't. Some people have the ability to have the success, and some people, you're unfortunately it's just not there with them. So I get it. I'm just really, I just really think like if you're gonna make that decision, if you are the Colts, then you have to be sure. Now, we see Bryce Young going back in for the remainder of the year. The Panthers have announced. We'll see what he looks like. Obviously, they traded away Deontay Johnson, and nobody else is fucking playing for them anyway. So it's like the one time, how can we really evaluate Bryce if it's like just this is the fucking product that you're putting out? I don't understand it. We'll see kind of how it goes. We'll kind of see how that goes. I just don't understand it. I don't understand how you can bench him and then like now that everybody's injured on your team, like, oh, let Bryce can go back in. I get it. The Panthers are the Panthers. They want to do dumb things like this. So yeah, they'll probably never win just because of that type of shit. Yeah, well, that's it for today's episode. Have a spooky Halloween night and stay safe. We'll catch you tomorrow.